Hey my dudes, my name is Cecilia and welcome to Bageriet Lördag, the Saturday bakery. We took a couple weeks off to rest, recharge, and celebrate Thanksgiving, but now we are back and I am so excited to celebrate the Christmas season. If you're new here, Bageriet Lördag is the bakery that I run from right here in my apartment in Stockholm, Sweden. I sell pastry boxes and each box contains 4 pastries and the menu changes every single week. Here's what's on the menu this week. Saffron carrot mini cakes with vanilla mascarpone mousse and cloudberry jam, brown butter chocolate crinkle cookies, ambrosia mazariner, which are almond tartlets with candied orange, and pepparkaksbullar, which are Swedish-style gingerbread buns. Not only that, but for the next 3 weeks, we're not just selling pastry boxes, but we are also selling cookie boxes. Double the boxes, double the fun. The cookie box has 7 different types of cookies. Ja, 7 sorters kakor. We have saffransdrömmar, Swedish dream cookies with saffron, pepparkaksgrisar, which are traditional Swedish gingerbread cookies, hästskår, lightly spiced horseshoe cookies, fruitcake kakor, dried fruit cookies inspired by English fruitcake, vaniljesmörkollor, which are soft vanilla caramels, chokladsnitter med polkagris, which are chocolate cuts cookies with crushed candy cane, and last but not least, norska nötkakor, Norwegian hazelnut cookies. Whoo boy, it is going to be a lot of work, but I am so excited. Let's get this week started. This Tuesday is a bit different from others. First of all, it's a Tuesday, and if you're a regular viewer, then you know my baking prep week usually starts on Wednesdays. But we're starting a day early this week because not only are we doing pastry boxes, but we are also doing cookie boxes for the Christmas season. So the first cookie we made was a hazelnut cookie. My grandmother used to make these when I was growing up, and I have always loved them. They're a little annoying to make, one because I don't have a machine big enough or strong enough for this amount of dough, so I had to knead it together by hand, but also because they require a lot of scooping and rolling. We made and baked off all of these today. Up next were saffron dreams, and holy wow were they saffron-y. We let the saffron sit overnight with some sugar and cognac, and it became this insane orange. These cookies are a bit easier to make because the dough isn't so stiff, so they come together really quickly and easily. These also needed a lot of scooping and some rolling, but I don't know, they just felt easier than the hazelnut cookies. We made and baked off all of these today as well. Next up was the vanilla caramels. The caramel needs to crystallize for 24 hours before cutting, so we're making it today and cutting it tomorrow. I prepped my pans with baking paper and then poured in cream, sugar, glucose, and honey into my largest pot. I scraped some vanilla bean and threw that in as well. It's important to use real vanilla bean and not just extract, so it really tastes like vanilla. Anyways, that got cooked until it was, well, caramely, and at the end went in a bit of butter and salt. I poured the caramel into the trays and then popped those on the speed rack. Cookie number 4 is horseshoe cookies. I love these things. I first discovered them last year in the book 7 sorters kakor, and they taste very similar to graham crackers, but they look like horseshoes. What's not to love? Today we're only making the dough and then we will shape and bake them tomorrow. I put that in the fridge and then moved on to cookie number 5. Next up was chocolate cuts, or I guess you could call them like slices. Chokladsnitter i alla fall. I love a good cookie slice and this dough pops together really quickly. It would be even faster if I didn't have to mix and knead by hand, but here we are. This is another dough that will be baked tomorrow. Next on the agenda was pepparkakor, and I have 2 recipes for pepparkakor that I've shared over the years. One is my grandmother's and one is a more modern take. My grandmother's is quite austere with just cloves and oranges, but these pepparkakor have a heavy spice blend that is more common nowadays. I decided to do the more modern version because this dough is easier to handle than my grandmother's recipe. These will also be baked tomorrow, so the dough went in the fridge as well. Last but certainly not least, I made dough for fruitcake cookies, and you guys, these are so pretty. Axel and I realized today, after having written all my menus and made all the promo stuff for the cookie boxes, that maybe I should have called them mosaic cookies because I think people have a bad association with fruitcake, but these are so good. Especially if you're a dried fruit lover like we are. We are proudly a raisin-loving household. That dough got packed into a baking dish because we are going to slice rectangular cookies from it tomorrow. That got put in the fridge and I cleaned down. Whoo, buddy, Wednesday was a long day, let me tell you. I know it looks like I work a lot, and I do, but the actual standing up baking portion of my day is usually not that long, around 4 hours, 6 on a long day, but today we were baking for 9 hours, which again, I know is not actually long in like the restaurant world, but it is very long for me now. But baking things off takes time, and there's no way around that, especially in an apartment. I started with the chocolate cut cookies. Each log went onto a tray, got pressed down and baked off, and then as soon as they came out, They were cut into pieces and the crushed peppermints were sprinkled on top. The steam from the warm cookies makes the candy sticky, so it like sticks. Very cute, I think. Next up were the fruitcake cookies. They came out of the baking pan really easily, but slicing them was not so easy. Cleaning up the sides and making them straight was fine, but when I started to saw blocks from the middle, I was like, oh boy, this is really going to hurt my wrist. So I had Axel jump in and help me. He cut all the blocks and then sliced all the cookies from the blocks. This also worked way better since his knives are way sharper. All the offcuts were kneaded together and reused. Then I placed all the cookies on baking trays. They don't spread very much, so I could fit a lot on one tray. They were baked, and when they came out, we pressed their sides a bit, and how pretty are these? I just love how they turned out. Next up was Pepparkaksbullar. This was by far and away the most time-consuming cookie, which I knew it would be. I think it took us about 3 hours to bake off all 200 cookies we needed. It's just a lot of rolling and cutting out and transferring and. Fortunately, we decided to listen to an audiobook, so it wasn't boring. We're listening to Lamb by Christopher Moore. It was one of my favorite books in high school, and it's really funny, so it helped keep us from going insane. After Pepparkaksbullar came the horseshoe cookies. I do love small fussy things, even when I have a lot of them to make. I think it's really fun. The dough was divided into exactly 32-gram balls, which were then rolled into exactly 32-centimeter long ropes, which were then cut into 4 equal pieces and bent into a horseshoe shape before being pressed down with a fork. Axel and I tag teamed this, so it didn't take that long at all, and they were so worth it because of how cute they ended up. Lastly, we did the caramels. Usually I love wrapping caramels, but I was so tired and cranky at this point. Axel cut all of them into pieces, and then I wrapped all of them. I usually wrap in pieces of parchment that I cut myself, but I didn't want to cut that many, so I bought these plastic sheets to wrap them in, but they hurt your fingers after a while, so I'm not too sure about them. At least they look really nice. Thursday was another heavy day in pastry land. The first thing we did was pack boxes. I'd wanted to do this yesterday, but as we were setting up around 6:30 in the evening, I was like, wait, we gotta stop. We can't do this now. I am a morning person raised by morning people. 6:30 is not the time to start a project. So we packed the boxes today. It took us quite a long time, but the first time you do anything, it sucks and you're really slow. We will be much faster next week. With that done, I could finally get started on pastry box prep. Thursday is for buns, and man, did it feel good to be back in the routine that I have been knowing and loving all year long. With the first round of bun dough in the machine, I got to work on the bun filling. Because the buns are pepperkaksbullar flavored this week, I decided to do a brown sugar filling filled with warm spices, of course. Pepparkaksbullar is the Swedish equivalent to gingerbread, by the way. Anyways, once that was done, I started on the brown butter for the brown butter chocolate crinkles. I just posted this recipe on my Substack the other week in case anyone is interested. The dough came together really easily, but it does need to sit in the fridge overnight to harden. That's the only fussy part. Once done with that, the first round of dough was done and put on a sheet tray between 2 sheets of parchment and placed in the fridge. I threw round 2 in the machine and took a short break. When I came back, round 1 was done chilling, round 2 was done mixing and could go in the fridge to chill, and round 3 got started in the machine. Then it was time to shape buns. The last couple weekends, I've kept orders at 75 boxes. I did 1 week of 93 and another of 104, and when I worked in an office, I did 50. I felt like 75 was a nice middle ground, but then our oven broke and we got a new one, and it was so much faster and so much more efficient. So me being me, I decided that along with 50 cookie boxes, we would also go back up to 93 pastry boxes. As you can see, I love the soft life. I love to be slovenly, and in no way, shape, or form has capitalism buried itself so deeply in my brain that my self-worth is tied up with my productivity. Couldn't be me. So this week I did 4 rounds of bun dough instead of 3 that I had been doing. Does it take a bit longer? Yes. But also it's buns, and I love buns. I love shaping them. I think it's so much fun. The only part that's actually annoying is having to listen to the machine run for an extra 30 minutes. It makes listening to an audiobook more difficult. Not impossible, obviously, just not as fun. Once all the buns were shaped and in the freezer, I moved on to lining the mazarine shells with tart dough. Axel had made tart dough last night while I was editing yesterday's video. Thank God, because I really wanted to get ahead on the mazarines today. This is another pastry that I love to make. I love lining tart shells. Do I wish that I had a sheeter and that also these were already cut out and sitting piled in the freezer? I mean, yeah, sure. But then I would be working in a real bakery and not in my apartment, and I don't want to do that. We take the lightly annoying things with the good and keep moving. The very last thing I did was infuse some eggs with saffron for the carrot cake that I will make tomorrow. Friday was another long day. Trying to be as efficient as possible, I decided to bake the muzzarines first. Usually I try to knock mini cakes out first thing, but I wanted to be able to glaze the muzzarines while the cakes were baking. That didn't happen, but hey, it's the thought that counts, right? I made my muzzarine filling by first blitzing my eggs so they would mix in easier. Then the butter and sugar get whipped together, the egg goes in a couple additions, and lastly the almond flour goes in. I filled each little shell with filling and then transferred them from the speed rack trays to my baking trays. Unfortunately, the speed rack trays do not fit in the oven, but it's okay, we make do. I baked off all the muzzarines, and as soon as they came out of the oven, they were flipped over so their tops flattened. I took off the molds and let them cool upside down. With that done, I could finally get started on mini cakes. I brushed each cake mold with pan release. It's equal parts by weight of oil, butter, and flour. These molds, by the way, are from Fat Daddy-O's. No, I'm not sponsored, I just love them. They're 3 inches by 3 inches with a removable bottom. The batter was made with the saffron-infused eggs I blitzed together yesterday. Eggs are really great at carrying flavor because they have both water and fat, which is how all flavor is carried, by the way. I guess I could have infused the saffron in the milk, but I used to make saffron macarons and we would infuse the saffron in the egg white and it just worked so well. I wanted to try it here and it worked spectacularly. I know it looked like a lot of saffron, but it was just 5 grams, which cost me 185 Swedish crowns, by the way, for a 13 kilo batch of batter. It's not actually a lot. Anyway, each mold got 130 grams of batter and I like to use these molds because they make the cakes look so good. I always get a lot of comments from people being like, just make a sheet cake and stamp out rounds. And respectfully, absolutely not. Those cakes just don't look as good. The molds give the look I want. Thank you for coming to my cake TED Talk. Anyway, we baked off 2 full rounds of cakes. So I have 48 molds and we flipped each mold once, meaning we baked 96 cakes, which is why I sold 93 pastry boxes, because you got to give yourself some wiggle room. We just baked off all the cakes bam, 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 and didn't have time for anything else. So once they were done, I threw together the custard base for the mascarpone mousse, put that in the fridge to cool overnight, and made a quick batch of cloudberry jam. This is also for the mini cakes. With those things done, I scooped the chocolate crinkle cookies. I will roll them in powdered sugar tomorrow and place them in the fridge overnight. This took forever since the dough is so sticky even when cold. Finally, I could glaze the muzzarines. I made a glaze with orange juice and powdered sugar and spread the glaze over the top of each one, then sprinkled on some candied orange peel. This also took forever, but I love glazing muzzarines and they turned out so incredibly cute that I didn't mind. I mean, just look at them. All that hard work all week long paid off in a very chill Saturday bake and pack day. The apartment is so cold in the mornings that even though the buns were pulled from the freezer around 9 p.m. and it was pushing 6 a.m., they still had not risen basically at all. But I had a lot of cookies to bake off, so it wasn't a problem. I trayed up all the chocolate cookies and just started shuffling them in and out of the oven. Each box got 2 cookies, so I had to bake over 200. It was 12 cookies a tray and 2 trays per bake, with each bake taking around 10 minutes. Plus I had some extra dough from a test batch I wanted to bake off as well, so all in all, it took me about 2 hours to bake everything off. This was perfect because the buns needed a lot of time to proof. I had made a makeshift proof box by covering the speed rack in a plastic cover I have for it and placing my hot plate and a pot full of water onto steam in there. Still, I needed every single second of those 2 hours to get the buns to proof. Bake days are usually pretty smooth and easy, but it is a lot of shuffling trays around and making space and then reorganizing over and over and over. But once all the chocolate cookies were finally done, I baked off all the buns. These were faster as they were just 1 bun per box. They were also 12 per tray and 2 trays in the oven at the same time, but they took around 12 minutes, and I had some extras, so it took about an hour to bake off everything. This is about how long it usually takes me with this new oven. After those were done, I could finally get started on the mini cakes. I whipped up the custard base, added the mascarpone, and whipped it together until it was fluffy. Each cake got a dollop of mousse, and then we used a hot spoon to press a divot into each. Axel was helping me at this point because I was running about 10 minutes behind. Matilda came over as usual and we started packing all the boxes. We have gotten so fast. All 93 were packed in about 30 minutes. It was great. Then we headed outside, set up the table, and started giving boxes to customers. And here is everything we baked tucked up inside the box. And that's it for this week. Wow, that was a lot. If you can't make it to Stockholm and you would like to bake any or all of the cookies for yourself, then I have just put together all of the recipes in one handy dandy packet, and it is now available for paid subscribers on Substack. You can find the link down below in the description. If you are in Stockholm and you would like to buy either a cookie box or a pastry box, then follow at Bageriet Lördag on Instagram for updates and box releases. If you would like more behind the scenes short form vlogs, then you can follow me at Cecilia.Talone on either Instagram or TikTok. And for long form vlogs just like this one, as well as recipe tutorials, you can hit that subscribe button down below. I hope that you have a great week and that I'll see you around next week. Hej då!